Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a different, but I'm sure no less wonderful, house poetry recitation competition. I cannot tell you how wonderful it is to be in the chapel and to be seeing real children rather than children on screens, or even worse, avatars, hiding children on screens. But it's so good that we've been able to have our house poetry competition as a live event again this year. It is, of course, an event that has involved everyone in the school. Earlier this term, everyone was involved in selecting a poem, learning that in order to go forward for selection for these finals. And I really feel it's an occasion where every finalist sitting in the seats here to my right is already a winner. Simply to have got this far. So very, very well done to all of you, and the best of luck. I am also incredibly grateful that we have a judge this afternoon who has come in from outside of Highfield, despite COVID. He's come all the way down the A3 from Charterhouse School, where he is the head of yearlings, Mr. Charlie Sparrow. And Mr. Sparrow looks after the yearlings at Charterhouse. They are the children in year 9, so it's the first year of their school career at Charterhouse. And Mr. Sparrow is also a teacher of English and classics and is very much looking forward to hearing from our finalists. Now, the format of this afternoon, each year group's finalists will present their poems. Mr. Sparrow will then say a few words about their performances and then tell us who is placed third, second and first in each group, and we'll be doing that for every year group. So I am now going to hand over to the people that you really want to listen to this afternoon, who are our finalists, and good luck again.
So our very first finalist in this year's competition is Iona from Year 4. Up you go, Iona.
Kids, by Anonymous. Sit up straight, said Mum to Mabel. Keep your elbows off the table. Do not eat peas off your fork. Your mouth is full. Do not try and talk. Keep your mouth shut when you eat. Keep still or you'll fall off your seat. If you want more, you will say, please. Do not fiddle with that piece of cheese. If then we kids cause such a fuss, why do you go on having us?
And next up, we have from Agincourt, Millie.
What Teacher Did on Her Holiday by Roger Stevens. She flew a plane and looped the loop. She dropped her glasses in the soup. She knitted jumpers without arms. She set off Sainsbury's fire alarms. She played Spurs and scored a goal. She made rock cake and sausage roll. She went to the zoo and got chased by a bear. She dropped her marbles down the back of her chair. She went for a swim and got swept out to sea. She was rescued by a chimpanzee. She beat Steve Davis and potted the black. Good morning, teacher. We're glad you're back.
And next up, we've got Alec.
Sky in the Pie by Roger McGough. Waiter, there's a sky in my pie. Remove it at once, if you please. You can keep your incredible sunset. I order mince meat and cheese. I can't stand the nightingale singing, or clouds all burnished with gold. The whispering breeze is disturbing my peas and making my chips go cold. I don't care if the chef is an artist whose canvas is hanging the plate. I ordered 2 veg and a puff pastry, not the universe heaped on my plate. OK, I'll try just a spoonful. Suppose I've got nothing to lose. The colours quite tickle the palate. with a blend of delicate hues. The sun has a custardy flavour, and the clouds as light as air. The wind with the chewier texture, with a hint of cinnamon there. The sky is simply delicious. Why haven't I tried this before? I can chew my way through to eternity and still have room left for more. Having acquired a taste for cosmos, I'll polish the sunset off soon. I can't wait to tuck into the night sky. Waiter, please bring me the moon.
And now we're back round to Trafalgar again with Annabelle.
The Man Who Invented Football by Kit Wright. The man who invented football, he must have been dead clever. He hadn't even a football shirt or any clothes whatever. The man who invented soccer, he hadn't even a ball or boots, only his horny feet and a bison skull, that's all. The man who invented football, to whom our hats we doff, had only the sun for a yellow card and death to send him off. The cave mouth was a goal mouth, the wind was the referee, when the man who did it in 30,000 BC.
Now for Agincourt, we've got Clemmy.
The Cat with No Name by Wes Maggie. It was a drizzly December when the cat first appeared and took the French teacher's chair for his bed. Now with scimitar claws in the staff room afeard, oh yes, and the street fighter's teeth in his head. Once a say he's seen doing arches and stretches, then 4 hours like furry coils fossil lie. It's true that he's made all the staff nervous wretches. They approach, and he opens one basilisk eye. For the teachers know very well not to stroke him. They know that he won't play the game. He's a wild cat, a not-to-be-riled cat. He's a tortoiseshell cat with no name. I once worked at that school and observed the huge creature's habits as I sipped my cracked cup of weak tea. I saw how he frightened and flummoxed the teachers, and how, every Friday, he'd run green-eye me. To appease him, each day we laid out a fish dinner, which the beast snaffled up in just 1 minute flat, then returned to his chair with a smirk. Bad sinner. Just seems there's no way to be rid of that cat. For the teachers know very well not to cross him. They know that he's 3 parts not tame. He's a wild cat, a not-to-be-riled cat. He can't bear to be smiled at. He's the tortoiseshell cat with no name, He's the tortoiseshell cat with no name.
And finally, for Waterloo, it's Zach.
If, by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head whilst all around you, others are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubtings too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet nor look too good or talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk them on one turn of pitch, and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart to nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone. If you can hold on when there is nothing in you except that will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds nor lose your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch. If neither foes or loving friends can hurt you, if all men count but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all the competitors. What a fantastic opening to our competition. So now I'm going to hand over, as soon as he's ready, to Mr. Sparrow, our judge, who will come up and let us know what he thinks.
Well, the first thing to say, I think, is thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be able to get out to another school for once. COVID has kind of put an end to my trips out to schools. And I think the last one I did before this was in this very chapel back in March. So that kind of time seems to have just disappeared. And I feel like I've stepped in here again, and I'll go out and the world might carry on as it did back in March when I was here, but we will see. Thank you as well for some fantastic performances. On my way here, I was trying to recite some of the stuff that I've been doing in my English lessons this morning and couldn't remember any of it. And I think poetry recitation is a very, very difficult skill, and you guys are better at it than I have ever been. So well done to all of you. And I just thought I'd say very, very briefly something about each person, and then announce the winner and 2 runners-up. So first, Iona, I was very, very pleased. It was very clearly communicated, great expression, and I really, really enjoyed it. You seem to enjoy it too. Millie, a very good, humorous choice, and you ended really well, which is always important because that's the impression you leave your audience with. Alec, what wonderful energy. If I could teach with half of that energy, I think the kids would be much more interested than they are normally. So I was really impressed by that, and your enjoyment of it came across really, really well. Annabelle, really good understanding. There was some difficult vocab in there. I'm not sure I would have known what the word doff meant at your age, but you seem to handle it very well. Clemmy, I enjoyed this really, really well, a lot, sorry. I thought you handled internal rhymes where words after each other are rhyming really well. That's a difficult skill because you often get your tongue tied around them, as I feel like I am with my words now, so that was very impressive. And finally, Zach, I have tried reciting that poem before, and I have never managed to get to the end of it. It is an incredibly challenging poem to recite, even to read, because of the sentence structures, and I thought you did fantastically with it, especially at the end, so well done for that. So, that leads me to runners-up. My 2 runners-up are Iona and Alec for your 2 performances. Well done for those, and the winner for this section of the competition I've given to Annabelle. Well done.
Welcome Year 5 to the second round of our annual House Poetry Recitation competition. Our first person up today is from Trafalgar, and that's Freya.
Every Time I Climb a Tree by David McCord. Every time I climb a tree, every time I climb a tree, every time I climb a tree, I scrape a leg or skin a knee. And every time I climb a tree, I find some ants or dodge a bee and get the ants all over me. Every time I climb a tree, where have you been, they say to me. But don't they know that I am free every time I climb a tree? I like it best to spot a nest that has an egg or maybe 3. And then I skin the other leg. But every time I climb a tree, I see a lot of things to see. Swallows, rooftops, and TV, and all the fields and farms there be. Though climbing may be good for ants, it isn't awfully good for pants. But still it's pretty good for me every time I climb a tree.
And our next up from Agincourt is Melina.
Saw my teacher on Saturday by Anonymous. Saw my teacher on Saturday? I can't believe it's true. I saw her buying groceries like normal people do. She reached for the bread and turned around, and then she caught my eye. She gave a smile and said, "Hello, I thought that I would die." "Oh, hello, Mrs. Appleton," I mumbled like a fool. I guess I thought all teacher types spent all their time at school. To make the situation worse, my mum was at my side. So many rows of jars and cans, so little room to hide. Some people think it's fine to let our teachers walk about, but when it comes to Saturdays, they shouldn't let them out.
Thank you, Melina. And now for Waterloo, we've got Romilly.
Be glad your nose is on your face by Jack Palutsky. Be glad your nose is on your face, not pasted in some other place. For if it were where it is not, you might dislike your nose a lot. Imagine if your precious nose was sandwiched in between your toes. That clearly would not be a treat, for you'd be forced to smell your feet. Your nose would be a source of dread if it was sat atop your head. It soon would drive you to despair, forever tickled by your hair. Within your ear, your nose would be an absolute catastrophe. For when you were obliged to sneeze, you bring a rattle from the breeze. Your nose instead, through thick and thin, remains between your eyes and chin, not pasted in some other place. Be glad your nose is on your face.
Now we're back to Trafalgar, and it's Eliza.
My Dog Ate My Homework by Ken Nesbitt. My dog ate my homework, that mischievous pup. Got hold of my homework and gobbled it up. My dog ate my homework. It's gonna be late. I guess that the teacher will just have to wait. My dog ate my homework. He swallowed it whole. I shouldn't have mixed it with the food in his bowl.
So next up from Agincourt, we've got the first of our two Theos.
The Great Realization by Tom Foolery. But then in 2020, a new virus came our way. The governments reacted and told us to hide away, and as we were all hidden, amongst the fear and all the while, people dusted off their instincts. They remembered how to smile. People started clapping to say thank you and calling up their mums, and as the car keys gathered dust, they would look forward to their runs. With the skies less full of voyages, the earth began to breathe, and the beaches bore new wildlife that scuttled off into the seas. Some people started dancing, some were singing, some were baking. We'd grown so used to bad news, but some good news was in the making. And so when we found the cure, and were allowed to go outside, we all preferred the world we found than the world we'd left behind. Old habits became extinct and made way for the new, and every single act of kindness was now given its due.
And now from Waterloo, it's Theo.
Aliens in Underpants Save the World by Claire Friedman. Aliens love underpants. It's lucky that they do, for pants help save our universe. Sounds crazy, but it's true. On one pant-pinching mission, the aliens zoomed through space. Their spaceship shook and wobbled. Their hearts began to race. The radars bleeped, the sirens wailed, on came the warning lights. Yikes! Heading straight for planet Earth was one huge meteorite. Meanwhile on Earth, the scientists had such an awful fright. What's that? They gasped in horror. Picked up on our satellite. The fire engines came racing, police and air rescue too, but with just 4 hours till impact, there was little they could do. Quick, down to Earth, the aliens shot, and jumped out with a shout. No time to lose, if Earth blows up, our pants supply runs out. They took pants down from washing lines and raided knicker stores. They sneaked inside our houses and pulled bloomers out of drawers. The aliens stitched the underwear and proudly they unfurled the most ginormous pair of underpants made in the whole wide world. Whizzing in their spaceships, the aliens stretched the pants in place. And as the meteor came to land, ping, it zoomed back into space. The meteor has vanished, gasped the people in surprise. But we thought we saw huge underpants. We can't believe our eyes. Back home, the aliens all cheered. Our pants plan was fantastic. We saved the Earth and underpants with pingy pants elastic. So, should your pants go missing, there's no need to make a fuss. Let the aliens have their fun. They've done so much for us.
And that completes Year 5's contribution to this year's House Poetry Competition. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you very much again, guys. I created a bit of a problem for myself in marking that round, in that I went very high with the first score and then didn't have much else, nowhere else to go with the marks. So they were all very, very close, right at the top of the kind of mark scheme that I've been given. But I'm so impressed. We do a poetry competition with all the boys and girls at Charterhouse, and they're obviously quite a lot older than you, and they seem to struggle more than you guys do with this. So I'm so impressed that you guys can do it with such kind of professionalism, such enjoyment, and such fluency. So Freya, I don't know how you didn't lose your way doing that, because with all those repetitions, it's a very, very tricky poem to handle, but you didn't, and it was very, very funny and well delivered. Milena, is that right? Am I saying that right? Yep. Great volume and enthusiasm, great variation of pace and tone. I'm not sure how well it reflects on us as teachers, but I really, really enjoyed that poem. Thank you very much. Romilly, great expression of humour. I really enjoyed it. And very clear enunciation of some challenging words in there, not least the word catastrophic or catastrophe. That was in there somewhere, wasn't it? Eliza, this is an old favourite. I do a lot of poetry competitions and everyone loves this one, and I think the applause you got for it was a recognition of that. Very convincing, a little too convincing perhaps. I hope you haven't been feeding homework to dogs, but I really, really enjoyed it. Theo, number 1. What a topical and emotional poem. It's very, very difficult to deliver sincere poems. In some ways, it's easier to do the fun and happy and jovial ones. But I thought you delivered this really, really sensitively, and I think there's something for all of us in there about the acts of kindness and how we respond to challenges and difficulties. So that was excellent. And Theo, too, the enjoyment came across, and there was a real sense of action and adventure in there, mixed up with the humour, and I think we were really taken along with you on that journey. So, first, second and third. Starting with third, I'm going to give the second runner-up to Theo number 2, Theo Dunfield Prayero, is that how you say it? Yep. That's my first runner-up. Second runner-up for the enthusiasm was Milena, and then my first place in this section of the competition for the choice of the poem, which I think was very challenging to deliver well and was done beautifully, is for Theo number 1. So, very well done, guys.
Highfield is a leading English prep school set in beautiful leafy Hampshire in the south of England. In the summer, students of all nationalities come to Highfield for their 3-week intensive English language course. Highfield is a remarkable environment for learning. Indoor and outdoor activities using the stunning school facilities provide excellent opportunities for children to mix, make friends, and have fun with others. The backbone of the summer school is the language course, where lessons are carefully tailored, aimed at students of all levels, from the beginner to the most experienced. With qualified and expert teachers and enthusiastic coaches, students are encouraged to embrace new challenges, flourish and grow in confidence. Meals are an important part of a child's day. Expert chefs provide a broad choice of home-cooked food. Trips out of school, both locally and to London, enrich the learning and bring a deeper experience of England's culture, as well as an opportunity to practice skills learnt in the classroom. Children return home with lasting, cherished memories, having taken their English to a new level. What more could you ask for your child next summer?
Welcome back to the Highfield House Poetry Competition. Now it's time for Year 6 to do their round. We're going to do it as we did last time, start with Trafalgar, then Agincourt, then Waterloo. And first up, we've got Brianna.
Sick by Charles Slitherstone. I cannot go to school today, said little Peggy, Anne McKay. I've got the measles and the mumps, a gash, a rash and purple bumps. My mouth is wet, my throat is dry. I think I'm going blind in my right eye. My tonsils are as big as rocks. I've counted 16 chicken pox, and there's one more that's 17. And don't you think my face looks green? My leg is cut, my eyes are blue. I think it might be a stomach flu. My nose is cold, my toes are numb. I have a sliver in my thumb. My neck is stiff, my voice is weak. I hardly whisper when I speak. My elbows bent, my spine ain't straight. My temperature is 108. My brain is shrunk and cannot hear. I have a hole inside my ear. I have a hangnail and my heart is... What? What's that, you say? You say that today is Saturday? Goodbye, I'm going out to play.
Thank you, Brianna. Next up from Agincourt, we've got Ryder.
The Land of Nod by Robert Louis Stevenson. From breakfast on through all the day, at home among my friends I stay, but every night I go abroad, afar into the land of Nod. All by myself I have to go, with none to tell me what to do, all alone beside the streams, and up the mountain-sides of dreams. The strangest things are there for me, both things to eat and things to see, and many frightening sights abroad, till morning in the land of Nod. Try as I like to find the way, I never can get back by day, nor can I remember the plain and clear, the curious music that I hear.
Thank you very much, Ryder. Now it's Jasper for Waterloo.
I would like to perform Please Sir by Peter Dixon. Sir, there's a fight, sir, in the changing room, sir. And Arnie strangled Paul. Smithy strangled Watson, because Watson took his ball. Barney's ripped his shirt, sir, and Baker spots on Sue. She's only trying to stop them. She got it on her shoe. The helper lady went, sir. She said she couldn't stay. Jane's crying in the toilets, and the gerbils got away. Garnet knocked the cage, sir, and the door, it just flipped back. It ran behind the cupboard, and it's stuck inside a crack. We poked it with a stick, sir, but the powder paint got spilt. It's all over the carpet and over Helen's kilt. I think you ought to come, sir. Mildred Miles was sick, and all the boys are yelling, and Martin threw a brick. It nearly hit John Bailey, and he's going to tell his mum. So shall I say you're coming? And shall I fetch his mum? Shall we get the cleaners? Can I mop up the paint? The new boy's torn his jacket, and he thinks he's going to faint. The other teachers said, sir, that I should come to you, 'cause you're the duty teacher, so you'll know what to do. Sir?
Back to Trafalgar, and we've got Poppy.
Excuses, Excuses by Gareth Owens. Late again, Blenkinsop. What's the excuse this time? It's not my fault, sir. Whose fault is it then? Grandma's, sir. Grandma's? What did she do? She died, sir. Died? She's seriously dead, all right, sir. That mate. 4 grandmothers this term, Blenkinsop, and all on PE days. I know, it's very upsetting, sir. What about yesterday, Blenkinsop? What about yesterday, sir? You were absent yesterday. That was a dentist, sir. The dentist died? No, my teeth, sir. You missed a maths test, Blenkinsop. I was looking forward to it. Right, line up for PE. Can't, sir. No such words as can't, Blenkinsop. No kit, sir. Where is it? At home, sir. What's it doing there? On iron, sir. Couldn't you do it? Bad hand, sir. Who usually does it? Grandma, sir. Why couldn't she do it? Dead, sir.
So next for Agincourt, we've got Dee Dee.
Be Glad Your Nose is on Your Face by Jack Prelutsky. Be glad your nose is on your face, not pasted on some other place. For if it is where it is not, you might dislike your nose a lot. Imagine if your precious nose was sandwiched in between your toes. That clearly would not be a treat, for you'd be forced to smell your feet. Your nose would be a source of dread, were it attached atop your head. It soon would drive you to despair, forever tickled by your hair. Instead, your nose, though thick and thin, remains between your eyes and chin, not pasted on some other place. Be glad your nose is on your face.
And our last competitor in this round of the competition for Waterloo is Georgia.
My Teacher Took My iPod by Ken Nesbitt. My teacher took my iPod. She said they had a rule. I couldn't bring it into class or even to the school. She said she would return it. I'd have it back that day. But then she tried my headphones on and gave a click on play. She looked a little startled, but after just a while, she made sure we were occupied and cracked a wicked smile. My body started swaying, my toes began to tap. I started grooving in my seat and rocking to the rap. My teacher said she changed her mind. She thinks it's now okay to bring my iPod into class. She takes it every day.
Thank you very much, Year 6. Thank you very much, competitors. That's the end of the competition. So now we're just going to wait for our judge, Mr. Sparrow, to be ready to make his comments.
This is getting harder and harder. I might have to pass on to someone else to do the last couple of rounds. So, guys, I have had to go with my own personal judgment and enjoyment because actually the scores are all so high. I've just had to make a call on which ones, looking back at it, I remembered and kind of enjoyed most, but they were all fantastic. So just a brief word on each then. Brianna, there's a great sense of character and good volume and enunciation, very, very clear words and effective shifts in tone and pace to help the delivery, particularly towards the end with the realisation of the day of the week. Ryder, I thought this was a great and original choice, well done, and a nice little flurry of showmanship at the end. I think you might have an acting career ahead of you. Jasper, very convincing, great energy, great enthusiasm, great volume, and the gesture helped with the understanding as well. Sometimes people get too carried away with the acting, but I don't think that was the case here. I think it added something to your performance, so very well done. Poppy, wonderful use of different voices and gesture to get across the different characters. I really enjoyed that. And I thought the punchline at the end was delivered subtly and intelligently as well. Dee Dee, really fluent and well handled. I really enjoyed it. You handled it nicely and kind of kept going to the end. And then Georgia, very well enunciated and projected. I could hear every word at the back. There were some beautiful changes in pace as well to help the meaning come out. And my favourite was when you were talking about the rap. Your rhythm kind of matched the rhythm of rap as well, which was fantastic. Again, something that I am not able to do. So, the final decisions. My first runner-up for this section is going to go to Poppy. Second runner-up to Georgia, which means my winner for this section is Jasper. Very well done, Jasper.
All on the buzzer. No writing down aloud and no hesitation. You must answer immediately, please, that you buzz in. Okay, here's the first one. Agincourt.
5.
It's not 5, sorry.
7.
Trafalgar.
7.
7, correct. Well done. And that's how you do it. Okay, here's the next one. You're going to see a shape. We'd like to know how many rectangles there are altogether.
Right now.
Okay, teams, I think we'll stop you there. So we'll start with Waterloo. How many did you reckon there were, George?
18.
18. Trafalgar, can you show us what you had, please?
13.
13. And Agincourt?
15.
15. Let's find out what the answer is. It's good to know the audience can count. Very impressive, Waterloo, 2 points. Okay, here's the next one. Okay, what's the Roman numeral XXXI in binary?
10, 6, 16 in binary, 16 in binary. Not trying to get that.
Anyone know the binary for that? Agincourt.
Is it 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1?
No. Waterloo.
1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
Let's find out. There is a little video to show this, which is quite interesting.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second half of the House Poetry competition. Now we have got our Year 7 competitors, and the first person to be reciting for Trafalgar is Destiny. Up you come, Destiny.
Don't quit, Anonymous. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but have to sigh. When care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns, and many a failure turns about. When he might have won, he had stuck it out. So don't give up, though the pace seems slow. You might succeed with another blow. Often the goal is nearer than to a faint, a faltering man. Often the struggler has given up when he might have captured the victor's cup, and he learned too late when the night slipped down how close he was to the golden crown. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of clouds of doubt, and you can never tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems so far. So stick to the fight when your hardest hits. It's when things are at its worst that you must not quit.
Thank you, Destiny. Now we've got Gil for Agincourt.
The Lorax by Dr. Seuss. What was the Lorax, and why was it there? And why was it lifted and taken somewhere from the founder town where the goggle grass grows? The old Oncer still lives here. Ask him, he knows. Now I'll tell you, he says with his teeth sounding grey, how the Lorax got lifted and taken away. It all started way back, such a long, long time back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green, and the pond was still wet, and the clouds were still clean. And the song of the Swami Swans rang out in space. One morning, I came to this glorious place. And I first saw the trees, the truffler trees, the bright-coloured tuft of the truffler trees. I felt a great leaping of joy in my heart. I knew just what I'd do. I unloaded my cart. In no time at all, I had built a small shop. Then I chopped down a truffler tree with one chop. And with great skillful skill, and with great speedy speed, I took the soft tuft and I knitted a thneed. The instant I'd finished, I heard gazump. I looked. I saw something pop out of the stump of the tree I'd chopped down. It was sort of a man. Describe him? That's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy. And he spoke with a voice that was sharpish and bossy. Mister, he said with a sawdusty sneeze, I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees, for the trees have no tongues. And I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs. He was very upset as he shouted and puffed. What's that thing you've made out of my truffler tuft? Look, Lorax, I said, there's no cause for alarm. I chopped just one tree. I'm doing no harm. I'm being quite useful. This thing's a thneed. A thneed's find something that all people need. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat. But it has other uses. It's far beyond that. The Lorax said, Sir, you're crazy with greed. There's no one on earth who'd buy that for thneed. But the very next minute, I proved it was wrong. For just as that minute, a chap came along, and he thought that the thneed in a litter was great. He happily bought it for $3.98. I called on my brothers and uncles and aunts, and I said, listen here, here's a wonderful chance for the whole once of family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast, take the road to North Nitch. Then, oh baby, oh how my business did grow. Now chopping one tree at a time was too slow. So I quickly invented my super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 truffler trees at one smacker. Then again he came back. I was fixing some pipes when the old nuisance, the Lorax, came back with more gripes. I am the Lorax! He coughed and he whiffed. He sneezed and he snuffled. He snuggled. He sniffed. What, sir? He cried with a crufulous croak. What, sir? You're making such smokulous smoke! My poor Sommy swans! Why, they can't sing a note! And then I got mad. I got terribly mad. I yelled to the Lorax, now listen here, Dad. All you do is yap and say bad, 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 bad. Well, I'm my right, sir, and I'm telling you, I intend to go on doing just what I do. And at that very moment, we heard a loud whack. From outside in the fields came the sickening smack of an axe on a tree. Then we heard the tree fall. The very last truffler tree of them all. No more trees. No more thneeds, no more work to be done. So, in no time, our uncles and aunts, every one, all waved me goodbye. They jumped into my cars, and they drove away under the smoke-smothered stars. Now, all that was left beneath the bad-smelling sky was my big empty factory, the Lorax, and I. But now, Sister Watson, now that you're here, the word for the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. So Cackles Watsy, he let something fall. It's a truffler seed. It's the last one of all. You're in charge of the last of the truffler seeds. And truffler trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffler. Treat it with care. Give it clean water and feed it for share. Grow a forest. Protect it from axes that hack. Then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back.
Wow, thank you very much. Waterloo, next, it's Daisy.
The Crocodile by Roald Dahl. No animal is half as vile as Crocky-Rock, the crocodile. On Saturdays he likes to crunch 6 juicy children for his lunch. And he especially enjoys just 2 of each. 3 girls and 3 boys. He smears the boys to make them hot with mustard from the mustard pot. But mustard doesn't go with girls. It tastes so wrong with plaits and curls. With them, what goes extremely well is butterscotch and caramel. It's such a super marvellous treat when boys are hot and girls are sweet. At least that's Crocky's point of view. He ought to know. He's had a few. That's all for now. It's time for bed. Lie down and rest your sleepy head. Shh! Listen. What
What is that I hear? Glamping softly up the stair. Go lock the door and fetch my gun. Go on, child, quickly, run. No, stand back, he's coming in. Oh, look, that greeny, gracious skin, the shining teeth, the greedy smile. Ah! It's Crocky Wog, the crocodile.
Thank you very much, Daisy. And now we have got Henrietta for Trafalgar.
The Stranger by Walter de la Mare. Half hidden in a graveyard in the blackness of a yew, where never living creature stirs, nor sunbeam pierces through, is a tombstone green and crooked, its faded legend gone, with one rain-worn cherub's head to sing of the unknown. There when the dusk is falling, silence broods so deep it seems that every air that breathes sighs from the fields of sleep. Day breaks in heedless beauty, kindling each drop of dew, but unforsaken shadow dwells beneath this lonely yew. And all else lost and faded, only this listening head keeps with a strange, unanswering smile its secret with the dead.
And next up for Agincourt, we have Annabel.
Quoting Shakespeare by Bernard Levin. If you cannot understand my argument and declare it's Greek to me, you are quoting Shakespeare. If you claim to be more sinned against than sinning, you are quoting Shakespeare. If you act more in sorrow than in anger, if your wish is father to the thought, if your property has vanished into thin air, you are quoting Shakespeare. If you have ever refused to budge an inch or suffered from green-eyed jealousy, if you have played fast and loose, been tongue-tied, a tower of strength, hoodwinked, or in a pickle, if you have knitted your brows, made a virtue of necessity, insisted on fair play, slept not one wink, stood on ceremony, laughed yourself into stitches, had short shrift, cold comfort, or too much of a good thing, if you have lived in a fool's paradise, why, be that as it may, the more fool you, for it is a foregone conclusion that you are, as luck would have it, quoting Shakespeare. If you think it's high time, and that's the long and short of it, and you believe that the game is up and the truth will out, even if it involves your own flesh and blood, if you lie low till the crack of doom because you suspect foul play, if you have your teeth set on edge at one fell swoop without rhyme or reason, then to give the devil his due, for if the truth be known, for surely you have a tongue in your head, you are quoting Shakespeare. Even if you bid me good riddance, send me packing, wish I were as dead as a doornail, you think I'm a laughing-stock, the devil incarnate, a stony-hearted villain, bloody-minded or a blinking idiot, then by Jove, oh Lord, tut-tut, for goodness sake, what the dickens, but me no buts. It's all one to me, for you are quoting Shakespeare.
Thank you very much, Annabel. And finally, for Waterloo, we've got Flora.
"13 Years Old" by K.L. It's because of you I'm writing this poem. It's because of you I fled my home. It's because of you I have the scars. You trapped us all behind steel bars. It's because of you I cry sometimes. You smashed, you yelled, you hit, you lied. It's because of you I feel with pain. every year on Father's Day. You were no good father to see. You beat me, then told me it was 'cause you loved me. You destroyed me, inside and out. You grabbed my heart and tore it out. It's because of you I have the problems. Too afraid to feel emotions, in case they turned against me, just like you did. Don't you see? You bullied your way into my home. You forced me to be isolated, all alone. And at night, I'd be dragged out of bed so you could hit me round the head. You would argue with my mum to try and put me in a foster home. I remember all the physical pain and the emotional strain. You turned everyone against me. You tore apart our family. But look at us and look at you. Who's better out the two? We carried on, we fought our way. And now look at me today. I'm not the weak 11-year-old you had total power over and mind control. You strengthened me, lifted the veil. But remember when I was a 6-year-old girl, looking up at you, eyes filled with tears, saying, "Daddy, why are you doing this to me?" And then you would stand there, and then you would sneer. "It's because I love you," you used to jeer. And now I wonder who would do that. Attack a child and never look back. Didn't you feel for me when I screamed?
Thank you very much indeed, Flora. So now we've heard all 6 competitors for Year 7. And so we're just going to wait a moment completely quietly while Mr. Sparrow manages to make his decisions. And then he'll come up and tell us a little bit about what he thought about all the competitors and who his winners are.
Well, another great round, and I think the really impressive thing about this round was the variety, that we went from kind of nonsense poems to highly emotional, highly wrought poems at the end. And I'm just going to talk through each of these because I think they were all fantastic. The first, we had Destiny, and there's a really clear understanding and I think a great message in the poem. That fits actually very closely with, I was here back in March and gave a sermon here, and it fitted very closely with the stories I was telling about my own cross-country and having to keep running through the mud and the challenges, so I felt that was a really powerful poem. Then we moved on to Gilbert with the Lorax. Dr. Seuss is great fun, and you clearly really enjoyed the nonsense aspect of it and the difficult ways in which the words work. I thought you handled those really well, and there were some nice changes of voice and an unbelievably impressive effort to have learned such a long poem, so I was hugely impressed by that. Daisy, I don't know whether you've been given a hint beforehand, but my favourite Roald Dahl story is The Enormous Crocodile, and there are a lot of similarities between that and this poem. So I really enjoyed it. I've really loved reading The Enormous Crocodile to my nieces and nephews. They're probably bored of it, but it's my go-to story. And the volume and the gesture and the energy was fantastic, and you managed to capture the kind of dark humour of Roald Dahl really well. Then back to the top of my list, Henrietta, The Stranger. That was a really brave choice, and you handled it really well. A clear understanding of the poem's atmosphere, and you managed some really challenging vocab well, and the phrasing was very good. Annabelle, I don't know if you knew that I was an English teacher, and I think if you've been in my lesson this morning on Shakespeare and Hamlet, this is the poem that my sixth form kids would have told you to read. I love Shakespeare, as boring and old as that might make me sound to some of you, and I have never heard this poem before. So it was a great experience for me to sit there and listen to it, and I loved every second of it, and it was fantastic. And that just leaves, I think, Flora, which was a terrifying, moving and defiant performance that was beautifully paced and enunciated. and had me kind of sat forward in my seat. I was gripped by every second of that one as well. So a really difficult choice for me. I thought I had a winner, and then I had to rewrite all the positions that I'd been given as we kind of went through the other performances. So again, another really tough decision. The first runner-up that I'm going to give is to Gilbert for his performance of the Lorax. I thought that was fantastic, and it's, like I say, so impressive to carry through. Flora, another runner-up for just the emotional power of that performance. I thought it was fantastic. But like I said to the last group, when you're faced with such great performances, you've got to choose the one that you resonates with you most. And on this occasion, it was Annabelle. You got the first full marks of the day, so thank you very much. I'm going to take that back to my lessons and use it with my sixth form pupils. So thank you all, guys. I really enjoyed that.
And welcome back to the very final part of today's poetry competition. Now we're on to the Year 8s, and we are going to start with Sonia.
Sadness by Erin Hansen. They say that happiness will find you, but I think sadness finds you too. It sneaks up on you in the darkness, just when you think you've made it through. It opens holes in what was solid ground, the ones you never know are there. And until you go and take another step and find you're standing over air. The world around you passes by and blurs of colours and sound. Nothing around you making sense as you continue your plummet down. You can't remember how it started, and you don't know when it will end, but you know you'd give anything to stand up on your feet again. Sadness is that feeling when the falling doesn't stop and it saps your life of meaning and all the good things that you've got. So when you finally hit rock bottom and you look back up at the sky, what you once had seemed so far away that the only thing left to do is cry. People all yell out, "Save yourself!" calling things about happiness and hope, but they're too busy with their lives to realise it'd be a lot quicker if they let down a rope.
So next for Agincourt, we have Annabel.
A Psalm of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Tell me not, in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment, and not sorrow, is our destined end away, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. Art is long, and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb driven cattle. Be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, howe'er pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present. Heart within and God o'erhead. Lives of great men will remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing, shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing. Learn to labour and to wait.
Thank you, Annabel. So next for Waterloo, we've got Thea.
I will be performing Lady Lazarus by Sylvia Plath. I have done it again. 1 year in every 10. I manage it. A sort of walking miracle. My skin bright as a Nazi lampshade. My right foot a paperweight. My face a featureless fine Jew linen. Peel off the napkin, O my enemy. Do I terrify? The nose, the eye pits, the full set of teeth. The sour breath will vanish in a day. Soon, soon the flesh, the grave cave 8 will be at home on me, and I, a smiling woman. I'm only 30, and like the cat, I have 9 times to die. This is number 3. What a trash to annihilate each decade. What a million filaments the peanut-crunching crowd shoves in to see them unwrap me hand and foot. The big striptease. Gentlemen, ladies. These are my hands, my knees. I may be skin and bone, nevertheless, I'm the same identical woman. The first time it happened, I was 10. It was an accident.
The second time I meant to last it out and not come back at all. I rocked shut as a seashell. They had to cool and pick the worms off me like sticky pearls. Dying is an art, like everything else. I do it exceptionally well. I do it so it feels like hell. I do it so it feels real. I guess you could say over cool. It's easy enough to do in a cell. It's easy enough to do it and just stay put. It's the theatrical comeback in broad day to the same place, the same face, the same brute, amused shout, a miracle, that knocks me out. There is a charge for the eyeing of my scars. There is a charge for the hearing of my heart. It really goes. And there is a charge, a very large charge, for a word or a touch or a bit of blood or a piece of my hair or my clothes. So hair doctor, so hair enemy. I am your opus. I am your valuable, the pure gold baby that melts to a shriek. I turn and burn. Do not think I underestimate your great concern. Ash, ash, you poke and stir, flesh, bone. There is nothing there. A cake of soap, a wedding ring, a gold filling. Hair God, hair Lucifer, beware, beware. Out of the ash I rise with my red hair, and I eat men like air.
Thank you, Thea. So we go back to Trafalgar now with Poppy.
The Listeners by Walter Delamere. Is there anybody there? Said the traveller, knocking on the moonlit door. And his horse in the silence champed the grasses of the forest's ferny floor. And a bird flew up out of the turret above the traveller's head, and he smote on the door again a second time. Is there anybody there? He said. But no one descended to the traveller. No hedge from the leaf fringed sill leaned over and looked into his grey eyes, where he stood, perplexed and still. And only a host of phantom listeners that dwelt in the lone house then stood listening in the quiet of the moonlight to that voice from the world of men, stood thronging in the faint moonbeams on the dark stair that goes down to the empty hall, hearkening in an air stirred and shaken by the lonely traveller's call. And he felt in his heart their strangeness, their stillness answering his cry, while his horse moved, cropping the dark turf neath the starred and leafy sky. For he suddenly smote on the door even louder and lifted his head. Tell them I came and no one answered, that I kept my word, he said. Nevertheless stirred may the listeners, though every word he spake felt echoing through the shadowiness of the still house, to that one man left awake. Aye, they heard his foot upon the stirrup, the sound of iron on stone, and how the silence surged softly backwards when the plunging hoofs were gone.
And for Agincourt, we have Lucy.
If, by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you,
but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait, and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream, and not make dreams your master, if you can think, and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster, and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they're gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose common touch, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
And finally, for Waterloo, it's Eloise.
I'll be reciting The Promise by Jane Highfield. Stay, I said, to cut the flowers. They bowed, their heads lower. Stay, I said to the spider who fled. Stay, leaf. It reddened, embarrassed me in itself. Stay, I said to my body. It sat, as a dog does, obedient for a moment, soon starting to tremble. Stay, I said to the earth of riverine valley meadows, of fossilized escarpments, of limestone and sandstone. It looked back, with a changing expression in silence. Stay, I said to my loves. Each answered, always.
Well done, all of you. So that's all of our competitors in Year 8. So we're just going to wait quietly for a moment while Mr. Sparrow, our judge, makes what I suspect is quite a difficult decision, and then he will come up and tell us his thoughts.
Well, I'm genuinely sad that's over. There were some absolutely fantastic moments in there for a whole range of reasons. And I'll just talk you through a few of them. Sonia, I thought yours was very well paced, and there was a shift of tone at the start that you handled really well, and it was emotional and desperate, and that was exactly how it should have been. Annabelle, I got asked by actually the same sixth form division I was talking about about Shakespeare just now, why I love American literature so much. And I think in part it's because of poems like that that are so optimistic and full of hope and full of life. It was a very ambitious choice. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow is not a poet that I've got to grips with very well just because of how kind of ambitious he can be, and he's well paced. And you were well paced and handled the challenging vocab really, really well. Thea, Sylvia Plath is not a poet who naturally fits recitation very well. She writes kind of confessional poetry, deeply moving poetry, very personal poetry, and is therefore challenging for recitation. But that performance was nothing short of astonishing. It was beautiful, it was subtle, it was sensitive, and your changes in tone and in volume and everything were spot on. I was mesmerised by it. There's one of those moments where you just stop thinking and the world kind of falls away for a moment. Poppy, that's a poem I haven't heard in a long time, and I love the opening imagery, and I thought you conveyed that atmosphere and that tone really well, and you gave a convincing sense of the character kind of knocking at the door. I really enjoyed that. Lucy, our second rendition of If this evening, and like I said to Zach earlier in the afternoon, it's a challenging one because the sentence structures are difficult to handle, and I thought you mastered that fantastically, and you handled the challenging vocab really well, and the pacing was brilliant. That couldn't have been better delivered, I don't think. And then we finished with Eloise with this soft and haunting and very moving performance at the end, and I think everyone was just kind of stunned into silence by it. Which leaves me with a very difficult last decision, and I hope I'm not going to cause all sorts of political issues if I actually have 3 runners-up in this round rather than just 2. So my first 2 runners-up together are Lucy and Eloise. My next runner-up, just for the ambition of it, is Annabelle, and for reminding me why America is so great in such worrying times for them. But the final winner of the evening, of the afternoon, was Thea, with that fantastic performance of Lady Lazarus. We were speaking just now about a pupil, a 15-year-old at Charterhouse, one of the early years of me being there and watching these poetry competitions. And he did a long poem by a poet called T.S. Eliot that was very challenging. And my overall winner this evening, reminded me of that, actually, in some ways, to manage a very kind of introspective, very thoughtful poem in such a mature and sensitive way. My overall winner is the same as our final winner, which is Thea. Thank you very much.
So all we need to do now is find out how we got on in terms of house points and which house is going to come up as winner.
But before I tell you that, there are several thank yous that I need to give on all your behalves this afternoon. First of all, a thank you from me to all our competitors this afternoon. I love this competition. It is always a great highlight of the school year, I think. And it's a wonderful way to end this first half of our longest term. And it's been a funny old term, hasn't it? It's been different, it's been challenging. There is so much of normal school life that we can't enjoy, that we can't celebrate, and there have been times, I think, when we've all felt really quite miserable about that. So it has been a real joy for me to see a school event that matters so much to so many of us, and to me as well, delivered this afternoon so beautifully again, and with some some actually all wonderful performances from our competitors, and some truly memorable ones. I think the standard this year has been as high as I can remember. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank again all our competitors for such a wonderful set of performances this afternoon and for entertaining us so very well. Other thank yous. I mean, we face this extraordinary situation of trying to manage major school events in a different world. And this afternoon, all the school has been able to watch what has been going on in here, live streamed into form rooms. thanks to the incredible hard work and technical brilliance of Mr. Davis and his assistant up there, Mr. Murphy. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Davis for making this possible, and also, of course, live streaming this event to parents who are watching at home. This is a first. It's our first live broadcast from Highfield School. Good Lord, there are probably going to be many more. But Mr. Davis, thank you so very, very much for all your hard work. And also to Mrs. Warner as well, who has worked tirelessly over the course of the last weeks to ensure that our event this afternoon runs so smoothly. And my goodness me, it has, despite all the challenges that there were there to overcome. So thank you. Thank you too to our scorer and senior housemaster there at the back, Mr. Mason, and the results are here, and that's down to his hard work. But my final thanks is to the gentleman on my left, Mr. Sparrow, who has, I think, shown the judgment of Solomon this afternoon in trying to do what is, I think, one of the hardest jobs, because the standard in this competition is always so incredibly high. I will let you into a secret. I have a nightmare. It's a recurring nightmare. And the nightmare goes like this. It's the lunchtime of the final Friday of the first half of term. We're looking forward to the house poetry recitation competition, and I'm waiting in the front hall to greet the judge for the competition, and my phone rings, and I am told that the judge is unable to come. And at that point, it's suggested that I should do the judging. And I am terrified. And I'm terrified because it is such an incredibly difficult job to do. Because you have to be able to find a way of separating so many brilliant competitors, so many wonderful performers, and also to explain why each of those performances has been memorable and has had qualities and strengths. And I have to say, I think Mr. Sparrow has done that absolutely brilliantly this afternoon. I'm incredibly grateful that I didn't get that phone call. It's wonderful to see you back here again. And thank you so very, very much for the super job that you've done this afternoon. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Not at all. So, this is, after all, not only a celebration of great poetry and great performance, it is also a house competition. And the results are as follows. In third place, Trafalgar. In second place, Agincourt, which means our winners this afternoon are Waterloo. Very many congratulations to Waterloo and to all our competitors. Well done. And my final congratulations and well done really is to a quite brilliant performance this afternoon to place her not only first in Year 8, but first in the school. And I'm going to ask, if I may, Mr. Sparrow, to present to Thea the certificate for your achievement. Thea, very, very well done. Which means that we're almost there. At Celebration Assembly this morning, I said we were hours away from the start of half-term, and probably the most deserved half-term break that I can ever remember. I echo again what I said this morning. You have done the most fabulous, fabulous job, Highfieldians, over the course of the past 7 weeks. I could not be more proud of you. It's been a wonderful, wonderful way to end this first half of term. Have a really enjoyable, relaxing, safe and healthy half-term. Please do take the opportunity to get some rest. We don't know what lies ahead of us, so do please recharge those batteries, but have a brilliant time and take care. Thank you.